Hi, guys. Shawn and I have some exciting news. We have created official Twitter and Instagram accounts for the Oh Mr. Sheffield podcast. It is at Oh Mr. Chef Pod on both platforms, and that is Oh Mr. Chef with 2 F's. So Oh Mr. Chef Pod. Check it out. Follow us. It's going to have all the latest and greatest from us about this show, and we hope you like it.
Now enjoy the episode.
The Flushing Girl from Flushing, the nanny named Fran.
Oh, Mr. Sheffield.
Miss Fine.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Oh, Mr. Sheffield, a podcast where we watch episodes of the hit 90s sitcom The Nanny, starring Fran Drescher, and then we discuss them. I am Shawn Pasquale here with Toria Sheffield.
Hello. I was actually just thinking, do podcasts always introduce the premise of the podcast every episode?
I am.
I know you are.
No, this one does. I mean, not always, but sometimes. You know, I guess it depends on the type of show. I feel like, I don't know.
No, it doesn't bother me, but I'm just wondering, like, it would be funny if someone was lost at this point.
I mean, it would be, but, you know, look, I much like in comics, I treat every episode like it's somebody's first. And I think that that's a good way to operate.
It's very considerate.
Thank you. So this week we're talking about The Nanny, Season 1, Episode 13, Maggie the Model, in which Mr. Sheffield's ex, a supermodel, thinks that Maggie would be a great young model, but there's like a whole twist. It was directed by Will Mackenzie again. He's directed a bunch of these, and it was written by Diane Wilk. This one is just credited to one writer. This was an episode with a lot of stuff going on in it, you know?
Yes. Well, basically we find out that so Mr. Sheffield comes home from work and he's literally like, everybody get ready for dinner. Chloe Simpson is coming over. And first Fran is like, oh my God, Chloe Simpson, she's the pss girl. And it's even though she's saying PSSST, it keeps sounding like she's saying the piss girl.
It does.
But piss is an actual dry shampoo brand. Yeah. And she's like, the piss girl. And she describes how she was in the commercial for dry shampoo and was on 17 magazine and is this woman who's basically always been famous for being beautiful and glamorous.
But you can tell that they were having a lot of fun with the pissed girl because it is pissed with a T, and they just kept saying she was real light on the T, and they made all these jokes about you got to get some piss in your hair, you got to put a little piss in your face.
Yes, yeah. But the thing is, so Mr. Sheffield says that and then leaves. Oh, and in fact, he's like, Niles, we're having a dinner guest. We're going to need this, this, and this, and don't forget this wine, and blah blah blah. And then Mr. Sheffield saunters out, and Niles is just like, yes, sir. And then Fran goes, oh, gosh, how are you not more in a tizzy about all of that? And then he's like, because I am a professional. At which point he walks into the back room and just screams. But we cut to the credits and we come back to Fran and Niles getting ready. And Fran mentions that this dinner guest is a woman named Chloe Simpson. And Niles basically goes pale and he's like, no. And he reveals that Chloe Simpson is actually an ex-girlfriend of Mr. Sheffield who treated him horribly and who Mr. Sheffield was unhealthily addicted to for many years. I guess before he eventually married his wife. Yeah. And broke his heart many times. So Niles is very in an adorable way, protective of Mr. Sheffield at this. But he's basically he can't quit her. She'll show up. Yeah. He'll be at her beck and call and then she'll leave him high and dry.
So, and there's 2 guest stars in this episode actually. So it's Leslie Ann Dow plays Chloe. the Chloe, the ex model, and she's. I mean, I don't know how familiar people would be with her now, but she was a pretty big deal in soap operas and the height of those. She was on The Bold and the Beautiful and Days of Our Lives and Sunset Beach and Dallas and
and even before American soap operas, she was. I think she would be considered a household name in England for sure because she gained popularity in Upstairs, Downstairs, which is a really popular series. And I also saw online that when she was 15, she had completed 4 films and was voted Britain's most beautiful teenager.
Oy. Nice.
So I actually know her from the Pink Panther Strikes Again.
Yes, I was going to bring up, I love the Pink Panther movies.
Me too, Shawn.
Dude, I loved those movies as a kid. I thought they hooked me in with the promise of a cartoon, but then I was charmed by Inspector Clouseau, you know?
I just have to say, so this led me down a rabbit hole where I clicked on the Pink Panther Strikes Again, like just to read the synopsis to be like, oh, which one was that again? And I was literally laughing out loud because, halfway through the synopsis, it's like, then Clouseau comes home, and someone tries to blow up his apartment, but like he's spared because he was in disguise, and the disguise had like included a helium balloon. So he had been floating outside his apartment when the bomb went off.
Those movies, like if you are at all a fan of like just like absurdist humor, like those movies do such a good job of just like building on top of like one dumb idea on top of another until it's like so many like ridiculous things happening at once that you can't help but laugh at like the complexity. It's great.
Yes, but so she was in a Pink Panther film.
It's also there's a lot of soap opera connections always with this show. That's another thing. This show uses a lot of soap opera actors as like special guests, which I guess makes sense in a time when like soaps were like a really big deal. So it was like, but there wasn't a lot of crossover. So it was always like a big deal when like a soap star showed up on something else.
And she has a very soap opera look.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how else to describe it, but it might just be like a lot of plastic surgery. But did you also notice her wig?
No, I don't notice that kind of stuff. She had a wig on?
Go back and look at her hair. It looks to me like they tried to blend a lot of like fake hair to make her real hair look thicker, but they did not do a good color match.
Interesting.
Oh yeah,
I didn't even notice that. I don't really notice that kind of stuff. But
I kept being like, it must have been a bad situation for a professional hair and makeup team to have this to be the best results. But that's neither here nor there, and that's me just picking on a woman's appearance. That's what that comes down to. So she saunters in, and she's sort of like glamorous, and the sort of center of gravity of the room like instantly centers around her, and Mr. Sheffield like clearly is like completely at her mercy still.
This whole episode made me question what Mr. Sheffield's wife was like, because so far the women in his life that we've been introduced that he's been in relationship with prior to like Fran coming into his life was like Cece and now this lady, right? And they both seem like very vapid women. They don't seem like very emotionally intelligent at all. Like, and so it makes me wonder, like, was his wife more like Fran, like more emotionally intelligent? Or was she more like a Cece or like a this lady type,
I think in my head, I filled in this narrative that, yes, he had been, jerked around by this really beautiful, like vapid woman, but then he probably found a very nice English woman who is probably a really nice, like a good mom. That's sort of how I imagined her.
You think his wife was British?
Yes, I would assume. Well, actually, no. I guess you're right.
The kids are very American.
You're absolutely right. So I guess not. So Niles just came with him to be his personal butler, to not even to just Mr. Sheffield, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? That does make a ton. You're so right, because it's not like. Well, no, but you could have 2 English parents and the kids would have American accents if they were raised here.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we don't really get a lot of information about the mom at all, and like what type of, is she, again, and it was just really watching this episode and thinking like, man, so far the only people that they've shown him having like an attraction to or being intimate with, other than Fran, are like very opposite from Fran.
So I think sometimes, different calculus goes into who you end up actually marrying than who you end up dating.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
I mean, I think I'm not going to call you out, but I feel like you've dated women that you wouldn't marry. And then you knew when you found one that you wanted to marry.
That's very true. That's very true. I once dated someone who killed her parents. So if that gives you any insight into that.
I just forgot about that. Oh my
God. That's not even hyperbolic. But that's for another podcast.
The crazy thing is that wasn't even the one I was thinking of.
I know,
which really gives you guys some insight into Shawn's past. But yes, a lot of people date and then they know when they found the actual quality person to marry.
So Sarah Sheffield was a blonde woman. She had short blonde hair. This is according to the Nanny Wikipedia fandom page. And they say not much is known about her personality, which, okay. But according to the episodes in which she appears as memories, she's very motherly and cheerful.
Yeah, I imagined her as a really kind woman for some reason.
And what's funny is like this episode's not even really about any of this. Like this is another episode where they spent a lot of time like establishing a lot of things, but then really the whole episode is about this lady making Maggie a model. Right?
Or it's the note behind the note is it's about Fran and a lot of people in Mr. Sheffield's life starting to feel like replaced by this woman who comes into the picture. And so it's like basically the backstory with this Chloe Simpson is she now runs this big top modeling agency. And one of the first things she says when Mr. Sheffield introduces her to his children is like, she sees Maggie and she's like, "You're gorgeous. I think you could be a model." That leads to this like plot of the episode where she basically says she wants to sign Maggie. She wants to, plan a photo shoot for Maggie. She thinks she could get her signed. She thinks she could be a top model, blah, blah, blah. And so Mr. Sheffield and Chloe start sort of doing more things together, including like an upcoming business trip in the Hamptons, which so Fran starts to feel threatened that Maggie is like developing more of an affection for Chloe than her. And Cece starts to feel like she's being edged out as Mr. Sheffield's sort of like business partner, which honestly leads to a really interesting scene where, Mr. Sheffield is off with Chloe for like the weekend because of some modeling thing, maybe involving Maggie. And Fran and Niles are in the kitchen. And Cece shows up and she's like, "I haven't seen Maxwell in 3 days. I don't even know why I bother showing up anymore." And it's such a weird shift in this scene because we keep being like, are they ever going to make Cece a sympathetic character? Like, are they ever going to do a turn with her? And they do.
But like, barely.
Well, no. It's this moment where I have a feeling this is going to start happening more and more as the series goes on. These three characters who are always like dunking on each other actually bond because she comes in and she's like, "I don't know why I bother anymore." And then, Fran's like, "Are you all right?" And she's like, I'm fine. And then she's like, "He took her to the Hamptons and not me." And Fran like takes Cece in her arms and in this really funny line, she's like, "Cece, it's just a business trip. Think how many business trips you've been on and gotten nowhere with him." And then they just kind of all end up like drinking together because they're all feeling left out of his life in various ways, but also leads to that very, very shocking joke that we were talking about before the record started.
Well, so there's one, but right before that Niles gets where he goes, where Cece's talking to him and he's pouring drinks and she says, "Don't you have anything hard?" And he goes, "Not for you." Which I went, "Oh boy." That's quite a comment.
Yep. Yeah. So it was like, no, they're still like gently ribbing each other.
Yeah.
But this scene ends with it's a complicated thing to explain. Especially without visuals. But basically, Fran and Cece are looking at some magazine cover with Chloe Simpson, and they clearly both have their beef with her right now for different reasons. And they both go, "I hate her." And then they kind of look at each other. It's like they said something at the exact same thing at the exact same time. And it's like this moment of like, oh, we kind of actually are like on the same page right now. And then Cece goes, "Do you think she's..." and she pulls her face really tight. Like, and she's clearly indicating, like, do you think she's like had a facelift? But then Fran goes, Asians? Probably. She's had everyone. Which I was
shocked. I was like, whoa, come on. Like, why? Because her eyes are narrow. Like, it was just like such a blatant, like, racist joke. Like,
and then so it was shocking. It was like, and then the audience loved it. And then, but then Cece goes, no, I mean, do you think she's had plastic surgery? And Fran goes, oh, Fran goes, oh, Mount Rushmore's had less work than her.
Yeah.
And it just ends on them like all laughing uproariously.
Yeah.
But
we also find out that Maggie is now 15 in this episode.
Yeah. She's aged up to 15, which makes sense. Like the show would have been on for 6 months. She easily could have had a birthday. But like, the thing that that sort of happened, I think it happened before this that I forgot about. Or no, maybe it happens after. So Maggie is so excited that, you know, she might become a model, and Fran's really initially like very excited for her. And so Fran accompanies her to the photo shoot where they're going to like take the initial shots of Maggie and then like submit it to not submit it to the agency, because I guess Chloe runs an agency, but the initial photos of her. And there's this, you know, first of all, there's an Andy Dick sighting. He's the makeup artist.
So that's the second guest star of the episode is Andy Dick, who...
Do you think is he a guest star, or is he just a working actor at this point?
Well, I mean, he would be... that's what I was going to ask you is where in Andy Dick's career do you think this falls?
So like, it's like...
is he Andy Dick yet, or is he just a guy?
The audience had a big-ish reaction to him.
Yeah.
That's what I noticed. So at first I thought it was just like, oh, this must have been like one of his first gigs. But then I was like, but the audience like cheered. It seemed to kind of almost clap harder than usual when he reveals himself.
Well, so let's see. So prior to this, he was in Reality Bites is the biggest thing that he was in. So I don't know. I don't think that, you know, I mean, he may have been stand-up, though, prior to this. You know what I mean? For, like, a long time, leading into then starting to transition into, like, then he did, like, the Get Smart reboot, then he did the Ben Stiller show, then, you know, then he kind of starts to do, like, more movies and stuff. But this is like, news radio, so...
I bet you he was just, like, a working actor, and maybe people just liked the gag of this, like, sassy makeup artist. But so he's in the scene, and then what happens is, you know, this big over-the-top, like, European photographer is taking photographs of Maggie and is like, you're beautiful, you're great, like, this is wonderful. And then he goes over to Chloe Simpson, who's there, and he, like, kind of quietly is like, oh, she's awful. These pictures are not going to be good. She has no talent for modeling. And Fran overhears this. And Chloe is sort of like, oh, well, you know, finish out the shoot. Like, you know, do what you have to do. So Fran preemptively, before anybody else in the family, knows that like Maggie is really, really getting her hopes up and like they're going to be shattered because this is not actually going anywhere. And Fran actually was probably partly to blame for this because she was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited for you. This is so amazing. She's just building it up to be a big opportunity and now knows that that's not going to be what ends up happening. And in the next scene, I think like they're home and Maggie's like raving about how wonderful the day was and how she's so excited and she can't wait for, you know, all the wonderful things that are going to start happening to her in life. And Fran's like, you know, like, sure, you're pretty, but, you know, you don't have to be a model just because you're pretty. You could be a gorgeous astronaut or, you know, and like, or a beautiful lawyer. And Maggie, in very teenage girl fashion, instantly is like, you're just jealous of me because you wanted to be a model when you were young. Because we do find out that Fran was a foot model in her teens.
So that's my other big note, which we can talk about last. But I have a whole question about this era's obsession with feet. Yeah.
Okay.
This episode is brought to you by Snapple. Welcome to the Snapple Market Auditory Experience. Close your eyes. Imagine you're walking into your neighborhood store. You make your way to the back and reach for your favorite Snapple flavor. You can't wait. You take a sip. Whoa, that's a lot of flavor. What flavor are you holding? Now open your eyes and check out Snapple.com to find ridiculously flavorful Snapple near you.
But so Maggie, like, basically runs out and is at odds with Fran right now. And, poor Fran was truly just trying to like make it so that Maggie isn't like horribly disappointed later.
I laughed out loud at the idea that this is pre-yoga. Like this episode was written in a time before yoga was like a thing. So like Maggie asks Fran, like, do you know yoga? And Fran does not have any idea what she's talking about. Like, she's like, what words are you saying? And I just thought that was, to me now, I thought that was hilarious. That like, wow, there was like, this was pre-people, like now, like everyone knows what yoga is, right? Like even if you don't do it, everyone knows.
This is also like, there's certain things that are so normal now. I mean, it was pre-sushi being something that like most people have tried.
Right.
Like it's sort of like how we talked about how like Fran didn't know the term PC just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'll never get over like those kinds of cultural shifts or it's so weird.
And so what ends up happening kind of predictably is Chloe comes to the house and sits Maggie down and very callously is sort of like, so these are the photos and sorry, like they're dull. You're not going to be a model. Don't know what to tell you. But like, anyway, I'm off. Just like kind of crushing this girl's dreams. And then not only crushing Maggie's dreams, but Fran's like, well, wait, I thought you had like a weekend trip planned with Mr. Sheffield. And literally Chloe's like, oh, was that this weekend? Like, oh, wow, I must not have written it in my calendar. And they're like, aren't you even going to say goodbye to him? And she's like, no time. So like true to fashion, this woman has like just kind of dropped into Mr. Sheffield's life, gotten his hopes up, and he's been sort of like lovey-dovey and, in the clouds this whole time. And now she's just going to disappear on him without so much as like a hug goodbye. And she leaves and we have this nice little moment at the end where, Mr. Sheffield finds out that Maggie got rejected from modeling. And he's like, first of all, you're beautiful on the outside, but you're beautiful on the inside too. And people are going to realize that. And also, I've had many disappointments in life and they only make you stronger. And she he gives her this big hug and she leaves. And he doesn't yet know that Chloe has just abandoned him. And so then, he says something like, oh, I better get ready. Like Chloe will be here any minute. And Fran's just like, you better sit down. Like you're about to be real strong. Meaning like you're about to be really disappointed.
Yeah. She's about to break your heart, dude.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was a cute episode. And then we get a credits scene, as some episodes, not all episodes, but some episodes have. And this one's credit scene is just 2 minutes in Fran's feet. She's just doing a foot model thing, and it's just the camera's pointed at her bare feet, and she's just moving her feet around. And like, this was the same year that Pulp Fiction came out, 1994, which also was, pretty well known. Tarantino's pretty well known for his foot fetish. There's a lot of feet shots in all of his movies. What is going on?
Well, Fran says the Fines are very proud of their beautiful feet.
Are you a foot person? Do you get anything out of feet?
No, but like there's some people that are so freaked out by feet and can like hardly look at them on screen. Like I don't care about feet. I'm very foot neutral. I mean, my own feet are famously ugly.
I am same. I am completely foot neutral. I don't care or not care. Like it's whatever. They're feet. And my feet are hideous creatures that are.
Are they wide and fat?
Yeah, they're wide and fat, and I have fallen arches and broken toenail.
Yeah, my feet are. I say they're the proportion of baby feet, but big. Like they're small feet. They're not actually like a large shoe size, but like, you know how a baby foot is just sort of amorphous?
Same.
And that's mine, but just adult size.
Do you have long finger-like toes?
No, I don't.
Oh, see, I have long finger-like toes. Yeah, it's a whole hideous situation. But my feet are also not big. Like, so.
Yeah, no, I have tiny feet, but wide. They're short and wide. They're chode feet. It's really, it's really hard to buy shoes, to be honest.
It is. I always have to buy wide sneakers.
Me too.
In fact, I was having a lot of like foot pain when I started running, and I finally went to podiatrist, and he was like, "It's because your shoes are too narrow and you got fat feet." And I was like, "Thank you, doctor."
Have you ever let your toenails grow so long that then you start feeling them in the shoe?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's how I know it's time to cut them.
Yeah, yep.
I don't think about it until that starts happening.
Yeah, because I don't look down there. They're hideous. They're hideous to behold.
Can you even see down there over your big tum tum?
Oh,
I don't mean that, you guys. I don't mean that. I was projecting. I'm literally, that is classic hurting because you're hurt behavior. I have literally been sitting here for hours while we recorded today and feeling my own stomach and thinking, oh, I don't like what's happening right now. So I'm sorry I just so viciously put that on you.
I mean, like, my stomach's not even that big. I can definitely see my feet.
No, like, Shawn's not overweight. I just truly lashed out for no reason. I'm so sorry.
All right, well, that's probably time for segments. And now, segments.
So, segments.
Yeah, no, I think we should move on to segments.
We can move on to our segments.
And now, segments.
Segments with Shawn and Toria.
It was so good. All right.
Best lines and moments.
Yes. Tell us. What is your thoughts on this one?
At one point, so Chloe is clearly like not a big fan of Fran and just thinks she's like a random annoyance. And she says something like, "What a loquacious nanny you have," because Nan's so talkative, Fran's so talkative, and Fran clearly doesn't know what that means. And she goes, "Oh, thanks. I try to make it to the gym whenever I can." And then there's just this running gag that happens every now and then on this show where Fran thinks she's in trouble for something and instantly blames it on Niles. And in this point, so Mr. Sheffield comes to the room and he goes, "Just the woman I'm looking for." And she goes, "Oh, I didn't do it. Niles left it on." And she's like, "What?" And then she goes, "Nothing." And he like wasn't even looking for her. He was looking for Maggie.
Yeah. And what did he leave on? That's what I want to know. What did she ruin?
Yeah.
I really like the line about, I dated all the Beatles. And then she goes, "Except Ringo." And then Fran goes, "Yeah, with that nose."
Oh, I know. Well, and she goes, "Oh, I don't understand why he didn't get a nose job." And she goes, "Barbara, I understand. She needs that voice to sing."
Yeah, she's like, that's how she sings.
Which, you know what? My mom used to mention that all the time. She used to go, "Well, Barbara Streisand never got a nose job because they told her it would affect her voice."
Yeah. You think that's true?
Yeah. You know what I just realized? One day we should post. This show talks a lot about Barbara. We should post my Barbara Streisand lookalike photos.
Oh, we should. We definitely should.
It's uncanny.
It is uncanny. She said it was uncanny, and I was like, I don't know. Let me see. And then she sent 2 pictures, and I was like, that's ridiculous.
Well, and it throws people off because it's like young Barbara Streisand. It's like Barbara Streisand in her 20s and 30s, not in her 50s or 60s. So I think if you look up young Barbara, that's when it's
like Yentl Barbara, not like what's that dramatic one she did?
The Mirror Has Two Faces.
The Mirror Has Two Faces, Barbara. Thank you. Yes.
Also, I like to say Hello Dolly Barbara more than Yentl I'd rather be that one, but whatever, that's fine.
Oh my God. Anti-Semitic.
No, I mean, well, I guess maybe. But so, did you have any other favorite little moments or lines?
Trying to think. I don't. No, those were my favorite. I think those were my 2 favorite lines in the episode. I mean, I already mentioned I really liked the. You don't have anything hard, not for you. I really liked that too, just because I was like, oh my goodness.
So for the nanny trivia / corrections times, this is a correction. A while back, we were talking about the real life age difference between the actress who plays Fran's mom and Fran's grandma.
Yeah.
And I think you had even said, oh, there's like 5 years between them. And I incredibly confidently swooped in with, it's 12 years. It's actually 5 years. I don't know why I was so, I think that even in that conversation, I was like, well, we've seen it. It's the Harrison Ford, Sean Connery thing. Mm-hmm. Those two are 12 years apart. So I just made it up.
They're very close in age, those two women. And I was like, it's crazy that she's being played as like this old, like she's like, I smoke too much. I just like, she's just fucking 5 years older. I mean, come on.
Yeah. No, I corrected you real fast. But you were correct. And it's Renee Taylor. Renee Taylor is Fran's mom, 1933, and Morgan Gilbert, Grandma Yetta is 1928.
Yeah. Not that far apart. They literally grew up. That's like, I think that's our age difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically.
What else?
I'm actually a little younger, but whatever.
We had a Jewish word this week, finally. We had a Yiddish word.
I missed it. What was
really?
it?
No, so it was schlub.
Oh.
It was schlub. It comes at the very beginning of the episode. She goes, I don't want to look like a real schlub. And schlub is like a not well put together person. Let me get the actual. I thought you would have done this, so I didn't do any of the.
I missed it. I think maybe that word is just like so now, just like has been normalized to me that I don't even think I clocked it when I heard it.
Yeah, so schlub means a clumsy, stupid, or unattractive person. And it comes from a Polish word, zlob. And I guess that just got turned into zlob, which then became schlub.
So I wonder if
zlob means like a hick.
Oh, I wonder I'm going to Google, what's the root of the word slob? I wonder, are slob and schlub related?
It's possible. It's totally possible. I know that like the alt Yiddish word, for some of these things like sound a lot like other words, like American words, Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't be surprised if like slob and schlub and if like it's all the same thing,
Yeah, well, it's funny. So because I missed the word schlub being used, I just searched around for a Yiddish word that would be relevant for this episode. So I was going to talk about the word shiksa, which I think everybody knows at this point, which is right. Yeah, like a shiksa is a non-Jewish woman, but it's usually used like if there's a Jewish guy who like always ends up like being attracted to or dating non-Jewish women, they'll be like, oh, well, he only dates shiksas. Kind of used like that. There's this famous funny thing that happens in my family my grandparents, they were a Jewish family who raised my mom and my aunt and uncle in a very, very small town in upstate New York, where I think there was only 4 Jewish families. Mm. And there was this famous story where my grandmother almost died. Basically, like the doctor had given her some medication. She had this really terrible reaction to it. And she, was literally like unconscious for like 2 days in the hospital, and they literally thought she wasn't going to make it.
Hilarious.
So, very, very. This is a story I will have to tell you at a later time because Bill Pullman's father is related to this because this is Hornell, New York.
The president of the United States.
His father. Yes.
Oh my God.
Hornell, New York is the birthplace of Bill Pullman, and his father, Dr. Pullman, was like the main doctor in town.
Wow.
But
cool.
Anyway. So I'll tell if the listeners want it, I'll tell it next time. But basically, in terms of this particular story, my grandparents were telling us the story again. It's really dramatic. And then, at the end of it, someone said like, what would Papa Bob have done? Like if you had died? Because she was like, they had my mom who was like 3 years old and my aunt at the time who was 1, and they eventually had like other children. So this was like early in their life as like a married couple. They were in their 20s. It would have completely changed the trajectory of his life. Shit. And she just goes, he would have married some shiksa. There were no Jews in that town. And then like went back to her sandwich or whatever.
I feel like very early on in my relationship with Elizabeth, I had to define a shiksa for her, and then she went out of her way for a while to make sure she was never considered a shiksa, which I don't consider her.
Sweet.
And she intends to. She's going to start probably once law school finishes up. She's going to start Hebrew school. She wants to convert. So,
oh God, I'm a
excited.
Hebrew school dropout. I hated it.
Me too. I hated it. And it's wild to me that someone's going to go voluntarily do it. But
I know.
Here we
Oh
go.
God,
aren't we jerks? Aren't we jerks for like undervaluing what was just like given to us by birth? And here's a person who's going to go like have to go to school and is like going to put effort into like changing who she, like her religion.
I don't feel bad. Hebrew's boring.
It's boring as shit. It's Hebrew school sucks. But
if we spoke Hebrew school would make more. It's a whole thing that I have because you got to go to Reform Temple. I went to conservative, so I didn't listen to anything in English for years. So my memories of services was hours of nothing I could understand.
Right, just tuning it out,
which is the perfect recipe for turning a kid off of their religion and being like, I don't care at all. I just never want to do this again. Give me Christmas. I was going to say for the Fran or the Cece in this episode, they're on the same page. But
they're on the same page a lot. So,
I guess, and also Fran had beautiful feet and we've established we have bad feet. So we're definitely not friends. Yeah, that's a very literal interpretation of the Fran or the Cece in this. I think they don't apply to us this week.
No. All right, so we're gonna take a pass on the Fran and Cece this week. But if you think one of us was a Fran or a Cece this week, let us know. Or if you've seen my feet in real life and you think I'm being too hard on myself, let me know. Or Toria for that matter, if you know Toria's feet. I think this was an episode. Again, this was like not my favorite one. I don't think.
Mm-hmm. It's not one I'm gonna like really remember. Later, the one we discussed. What was it? Oh, we discussed with the Kane sisters. The plot for Nanny. Like there are scenes from that episode that I will like literally remember months to come. And in fact, I just realized we totally brushed over an amazing bit of physical comedy in that episode where Fran's at the funeral home and she accidentally turns over an urn and then desperately tries to hide the ashes.
Yes, it's a very Lucy. It's another Lucy moment. Yeah. It's great.
There's there's not only like comedic beats, but also emotional beats in an episode like that I remember. And this, I truly if I didn't have my notes on it, might not remember a lot of it several days later. Yeah.
Great episode though. Overall, like good stuff. Like it's fun and there's like some good moments, but it doesn't stand out. It's not weird enough that it's like, oh my God, that crazy, like the end of the school play episode. Like that's like just such like a weird tableau to end on, like there's things that stick out to me about certain ones. And this one was all right. I did really, I'll remember this one probably always for that very insulting, racist Asian joke. And Andy Dick. This is the episode with Andy Dick.
Oh, very true.
Yeah.
I hate Andy Dick.
Me too. With passion. I was trying to be nice.
Yep. Sorry, Andy. Well, thank you guys for listening. This was very fun. You can find me, Toria Sheffy, 2FSY on Instagram. You can listen to this podcast, Oh, Mr. Sheffield, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, variety of other places. Shawn, where can we find you?
I'm on Twitter at Shawn Writes, and don't forget to like and subscribe and share the podcast with people if you really like it. And you can also go to our Anchor page and leave us a little voice message. That would be fun. Mm-hmm. You go to anchor.fm/the nanny pod. Go over there, the nanny pod, and check it out. Leave us a little message. And we'll play them or not, or we won't play them. You can say, don't play this, but this is just for you guys.
But don't leave anything weird though.
If you're going to leave anything weird, talk only about my feet. Thank you.
Thank you guys for listening.
Yes, thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
The Flushing girl from Flushing, the nanny named Fran.
Oh, Mr. Sheffield.
I go, Miss Fine.